Hi everybody, so my name's Ken. Today I'm going to be sharing my journey as how I became a data scientist and how I'm transitioned to the education manager. So let me just go through. So for the agenda for today, we're going to go through 5 things. Number 1, who is this for? What will you get from it? And why should you listen to me? What knowledge you can gain from this talk? Your day-to-day in the data scientist life, a sample project that I've done as a data scientist, and some tips and tricks I use to find my job. So let's start. Okay, so who is this for? So everybody who comes to Sigmaschool, we want to get a job in tech. So this is going to be for you. If number 1, you want to get a job in tech, the industry doesn't matter. Number 2 is for you to experience a day in the data scientist life. Everybody here is studying for full stack development, so this will be something new and hopefully exciting. And number 3 is finding jobs using various methods that you might not hear about outside, and this is my personal experience. So I have a few goals for this session. The first one is I want to share my journey. I came directly from the tech industry before that. To be specific, fintech, which I'll show you the companies later. Number 2, I want to share some personal tips on how I transitioned from tech to education manager. And lastly, I want to share my personal vision of why I decided to join Sigmaschool instead of staying in tech. So why is this different from other talks and why you guys should listen to me? So number 1 is I recently left tech, which was around 2 to 3 months ago. I've been in tech for 2.5 years right now. So my experience is latest and up to date. You guys can apply it to your own industry, your own software engineering journey. Number 2, I'm like all of you over here. All of you took the leap of faith to join here to change your career paths. I'm in the similar situation, just that instead of leaping into tech, I'm leaping away from tech into education or edutech. Number 3, the way I got my jobs, it's very unique. Personally, that's what I feel, and I want to share how I got it, and maybe you guys can apply it too. If anybody has any questions, just feel free to stop me or ping in the chat, and I'll have a read. Let me know if there's questions, yeah? Okay, what knowledge can you gain from the talk today? Number 1, you'll be able to find out what are the responsibilities of a data scientist, what we do day to day, how we contribute to the company, and what value I can bring. Number 2, we're going to learn about the fintech industry, which I've been in my whole career. For my two and a half years ever since I started working, I've only been in the fintech industry, and I specialize in loans. So your personal loans, your car loans, your housing loans, your SME loans, corporate loans, all of that. And lastly, I'm going to share some soft skills that you can use to progress your career from an individual contributor to a manager and a leader. Okay, so who is Ken? Number 1, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sigmaschool's education manager. I used to be an ex-data scientist, and I'm just a chill guy who wants to play guitar and sports. So over there you can see that's me inside the photo. That's me at my guitar teacher's house holding an acoustic guitar. I don't really play that anymore, I play electric now, but that was during Halloween, so I'm dressed up as a Pokemon over there. Fun fact, I had to wear that for my friend's wedding party, and we had to crash a house like that. So let me share a bit about my journey on how I reached where I am today. So back probably in like 2016, 2017, I started with a foundation in arts in Help University because I was unsure of what path I wanted to take. After playing basketball with some of my older friends and I talked to them, they asked me what's my passion. So I told them, I like computer, I like maths. It's a bit crazy. A lot of people say I like maths. That's weird. I'm weird, yeah. So the first thing I did was I found out that my friend told me there's something you can use for both of this, data science. So what is data science? Practically, it's a mix of programming, analytics, maths, statistics, very similar to software engineering, just that it's a lot more maths heavy and we don't really produce many applications or programs. So I first did my degree in Macquarie University, which is in Australia. I went there in 2019, around June, and I did my degree there for 2.5 years, 3 years, and guess what? It was not the best because I was stuck in the house for 2.5 years due to COVID, but I made a lot of good friends there, and because of that, I went to India for a wedding actually, yeah, and it was a very nice place. India's a very great place, you guys should go visit. After I graduated, I actually came back to Malaysia. I did have an internship in New South Wales, Australia, under a company called Boehringer Ingelheim. If anybody has any pets over here, you guys would know that's where you get your heart gut medicine. Yeah. So after I came back, I found a job as a data scientist in a company called Pilot Multimedia. What this company is it's a company that provides loan origination systems to banks. It sounds like it's very complicated, but all it is will your loan get approved or not, which I'm going to show you guys a sample project later. So from a data scientist in Pilot Multimedia, I transitioned into being the data science manager and leading a team of 3 people and helping banks develop their scoring models for whether the loans are approved. So in the middle of my journey as a data science manager, I felt very stagnant. I wasn't really learning much. And I decided to do my master's in data science in Help University. This was concurrently while I was working in Pilot Multimedia still. And halfway during my master's, I did move to MoneyLion as a data scientist, which is the next step. And personally speaking, since I've been through a degree and master's, I definitely feel like what you guys are learning in the bootcamp is a lot better and efficient. Because by the time I graduated, everything was outdated. There was no ChatGPT back then. Nobody really uses Stack Overflow now. The master's was a research paper. There was not any industry knowledge that we could apply inside. Yeah, and after that, I got into a company called MoneyLion. So MoneyLion is actually one of my dream companies to get into. So while I was in Pilot Multimedia, I actually failed my interviews at MoneyLion before I got back into MoneyLion, which is going to be a story of how I got back into MoneyLion later on, which I'll share with everybody tips. So this is my hobby and dreams. My first hobby, a dream I want to be, is I want to be a guitar content creator. I want to record songs and play online, Instagram, YouTube, wherever. As you can see, I like anime. Some of you know, some of you don't know. So mostly it's Japanese songs. And this is my favorite guitar cover artist. His name is Matty. And my personal goal as a guitarist is I want to be able to just listen to any song and just play it by ear. Yeah. And my other goal is this is more work related and also personal at the same time. I want to be a self-development coach where I can help everybody achieve their dreams and be a better person generally. Because I have my own dreams. I know I can get there. It took me a while before I could get the confidence to get there. And after getting there, I realized confidence really brings you so far. Having that one person to drive you and help you out really helps you a lot. And I want to be that person for as many people as I can. So that's one of my visions on why I want to be in Sigmaschool. First of all, I want to help you guys get a job into tech, which you guys are here for right now. And if possible, and if you guys allow me to, and in the future, maybe you guys can share some of your dreams with me. We can see how we can achieve it together, because along your journey in tech, you will learn similar skills, problem-solving skills, confidence. There's a lot of imposter syndrome, but I believe everybody can get over it. So let's move on. Okay, so this is what I used to do as my job. So a day-to-day, what does a data scientist do? What's the timeline of what we do? So number one, we do data preparation, which is very related to software engineers. So for software engineers, we create a lot of programs. For example, you guys are making your bus arrival app, your to-do list. So what the software engineer and the data scientist collaborate here is that I will be talking to my software engineering team to get them to track data according to the number of clicks in certain places, number of buses coming, and they will compile it into a SQL database for us, which you guys will be learning later on. The next part is going to be data exploration, where after the data is collected, I will analyze the data. This is very maths and statistical heavy, so I hope you guys don't mind too much. I'll try to make it interesting, but it's maths. Not everybody likes maths, right? And the third one is one of the more up and coming words nowadays, machine learning modeling. So when we say machine learning modeling or AI modeling, it's actually very broad. So I'll explain in further detail later. The next one that we do for our day-to-day is we do metrics dashboarding. So what metrics dashboarding is we prepare a list of metrics, what we want to present, or what is the most important things that drives our day-to-day operation. Because as a data scientist, our goal is to drive business decisions. Which leads us to the last one, which is our stakeholder presentation. What do we show our stakeholders? What decisions do we make? Why do we make the decisions? And what experiments should we run? So let's just dive into it and see what we have next. Okay, so for data preparation, it's very simple. The first one, data collection. As mentioned earlier, we work with software engineers to collect data from the app. For example, I'll use MoneyLion's, or maybe let's use Maybank. Everybody has a Maybank app, right? So from number of clicks, number of ads, number of transactions, number of transfers, we track all of that, and we try to improve the app through running experiments. We have something called A/B testing, where my app and your app could be different. We had changed the features here and there to make it more clickable, more attractive. So that's one, data collection, how we work with the software engineers. Number two is something we call feature engineering. So when we collect data, for example, let's say we have your amount in the bank. So based on that amount, feature engineering is creating something new. So basically you engineer a new feature. For example, let's say amount used daily. You can track it just by looking at the total amount and just subtracting it. That's an example of feature engineering. And lastly is data cleaning. So earlier on, we saw there are like 5 steps over here. Data preparation is actually 90% of our work, and we just spend 90% cleaning the data, because majority of the time, it's always dirty. We work with billions and billions of rows, especially in the fintech industry. So what data cleaning is, you're going to be removing outliers, we're going to have wrong rows of data. Sometimes it's because of a bug caused by the software, sometimes it's caused by just wrong human input, and it's our job to fix that. So after data preparation, what we do is data exploration. So we've probably heard this term a lot. What is data exploration? So data exploration mainly consists of 3 steps when we want to do something called EDA, exploratory data analysis. So the first one is data distribution. All of this will have examples later in a live project. So data distribution, it's basically like a histogram or something like a pyramid, I would say. So where do you belong in that pyramid? Is it a normal distribution? It's getting a bit technical here, but I'll show you an example later. Number 2 is identifying patterns. What patterns can you see just from looking at your data? Can you tell, like, if somebody is older, his income is more? If somebody's gender is male or female, are they going to be less likely to pay the loan? So that's the kind of patterns we're looking for. And lastly, like what I mentioned earlier, is outlier detection. So for example, a very normal case is we'll identify outliers for the age. There are ages that go up to 200 and 300, which is not possible as of today. So that's the kind of outlier detection we run. I'll be showing a few simple examples later, and I can show the full project later as well. Okay, and the most interesting one to me personally, sadly this is only like 5% of our job, getting everything ready, is machine learning modeling. So in machine learning modeling, we actually have 3 types of machine learning models. Number 1 is supervised learning, where it's very hands-on and decided by the user themselves. Number 2 is unsupervised learning, where you just throw the data inside and you do not have a decision variable to predict, but it's just clustering. For example, I'll give you an example for your supervised learning. Classification is basically a yes or no. And for example, later we're going to go through a loan decision evaluation. Is this person eligible for a loan? Yes, no, that's what we call classification. For regression, it's more of a numerical thing where we present numbers. For example, I can predict the price of chicken rice based on the area we are in. Yeah. For clustering, maybe some of you guys are like renting properties right now. So a project that I've personally done for my master's is based on who you are, where you stay, your income, your age, your job, and everything. We predict the best rental property for you, and we automate the whole thing onto the system. So for software engineers, how do we work together with these data science models? So while the data scientists will make the machine learning model, we integrate it together with the software engineering programs. So for example, you guys are going to have a website. You guys all know iProperty, right? So for iProperty, we're going to create the website for that. And for the recommendations of what to rent, where to rent, that's going to be working together with the data scientists. Reinforcement learning is automated training. It's basically learning from its own mistakes. For example, your ChatGPT is part of reinforcement learning as well. It's something called a neural network, which is, think of it as a very complex human brain. If it makes a mistake, it learns from it, it applies feedback, and it gives the correct answer. So there is an issue with reinforcement learning for the current time being. Just to share with everybody, since we all use ChatGPT, if somebody is going to say an apple is an orange, and ChatGPT says no, it's not, and you tell it again, an apple is an orange, ChatGPT, you are wrong. ChatGPT will take that knowledge and be like, yes, an apple is an orange. So that's an example of reinforcement learning, and that's also an issue that we are facing right now. So based on the machine learning models, what do we do? So the first one is model selection. For model selection, we pick it based on the business problem. So for example, we have a business problem. I'm not sure what to price Sigmaschool's coding bootcamp. Based on the data we collect for the area location, the geography, or any other features you can think of, we can run a regression model because that's going to be predicting a numerical model. So really just based on what your business problem is, you will be able to pick which machine learning model to run. Number two, model training is where we prepare the model and just reiterate as many versions as we can until we get a best version. And how do we decide the best version? We do this step called model evaluation. So model evaluation is basically just as it says. How good is your model? How bad is your model? Can you trust this model? And we have certain metrics that we use to track it, which I'll be sharing in the sample later. Moving on, metrics dashboarding. So this is one of the more, we have two sides of data science. One is your business side and one is your research side. This is more to the business side where we visualize the data for both the stakeholders, product owners, and data scientists to make insights out of it. I'm not sure how many of you did the data analytics course, but this was part of it as well. For example, we can see there is net profit margin on the top right. It's very wavy. What can you interpret from it? Stuff like that. And real-time monitoring. So the reason why we need to create dashboarding for real-time monitoring, this is my own experience in MoneyLion. Real-time monitoring is mainly used for abnormality detection, or what we call code rate alert. So there was a time where we were giving away free money, 1,000 USD every few seconds, to citizens in US, and that is why we need real-time monitoring to figure out what the issues are. And that is also where software engineers come in and fix the issues for us based on what we look at the data. So this is a lot of high collaboration between both teams, along with your data engineering team, which we won't be covering today. And lastly, and the most important, because if you can't do this and you can't translate what you want to say to the people, there is no point. So it's your stakeholder presentation. You present to your bosses, your CEO, your CTO, your product owners. Number one is your insight delivery. Based on your dashboard, what can you get? What can you show? What pattern can you see? And what impact will happen? Which brings us to number two, product implications or impact. For example, MoneyLion's loan program. We were giving a $1,000 loan every few minutes for free and not collecting any money back. What does that impact? So we just directly tell stakeholder, and this is where we need to bring in layman terms, which is also part of why we want to be able to explain our code and read it properly. Hey, boss, we are losing $1,000 every few minutes. We need to fix this issue. The issue is because on the feature tab, it's not running properly, for example. And the next part is, how do we fix that? So we have an experiment proposal. What experiments should we run to tackle this issue? Should we shut off that feature? Does it affect our revenue? Should we make a new feature? Should we cancel a certain feature? So that's where we run the experiments and propose based on the data we get. And number four, next actions, is where the whole room just sits together and decides what is our next course of action, how should we approach it, and what we plan. So for this stakeholder presentation, usually the stakeholders will involve software engineering team as well for the next actions, because what we need to do, what data scientists do, all we do is we give you the insights and what actions need to be taken. Without our software engineers, we actually cannot do anything at all, because all we do is use the data. Okay, so let's have a look at a sample project. So this was a project I did in my first company as a manager, overseeing a team of 3 people, a loan default prediction for personal loans. So loan default means, are you going to pay back the loan or no? Just yes or no answer. And personal loans are what all of us takes from the bank if we want to take maybe 5,000, 10,000 ringgit, something like that. This is where it's going to get a bit more maths heavy, bear with me for a while. So number one is data collection. As you can see, we collect multiple features such as your age, your income, your ownership, and so on. This is where we collaborate with our software engineers to target this data. For example, we have a system where we capture all the customer data. If data scientists are to manually extract the data and just put it in one by one, it's going to take us forever. So instead of like doing that, we talk to our software engineer, we capture the data. I'm not too sure how it's done because my job is to ask them to get it done. So maybe you guys will learn that in the future, and I'll learn it with you guys. Number two, feature engineering is where I mentioned just now. So for example, we can look at, there is loan grade. So for each grade, inside there is actually A, B, C until G. So we feature engineer each of the grades individually so we can we can track the pattern of each person's grade rather than just looking at the overall picture. And lastly, and the most important, is your data cleaning. I'll just give a very simple one. For example, we have employment length in years. So for this one, we're just checking, is it empty? It is possible for it to be empty, but it should be filled with 0. But how do we know it's actually 0? This is where a lot of your own experience and your own knowledge comes in. And usually, for most cases, based on what model you're using, we decide to just use the average of everybody's employment length. So while we do predict all this, it's not the most accurate, and that's where we need to constantly work together in a team with both the software engineers, stakeholders, product owners, whoever else, to improve our quality of data. Next is your data exploration part. So for example, I mentioned data distribution just now. We want to look at, based on our data, what is the number for, in this example, we are going to predict if they are going to pay the loan or not pay the loan. So we can see there is around like a 75 to 25% where 75% actually pay their loan, and 25% don't pay their loan. So you guys might think, oh, it's quite good, 75-25. But if 25% of people in the banks don't pay their loan, on average, it takes 10 good loans to cover one bad loan. Meaning this actually makes you lose money, which is why having a loan default machine learning model is very important for all banks. And number two is we identify patterns. So what we see down here is a correlation chart, meaning like, as your age goes up, does your income go up? I'll show you guys the full one after this. And the third one is your outlier detection. Basically, for your employment length in years, what are those that stand out and what doesn't make sense? So outlier detection, it doesn't always mean if it shows a dot, as you guys can see in the picture, meaning it's an outlier. You have to use your knowledge and all, but obviously if you have an employment length of negative or like 200 years, we know something is wrong, and we have standard guidelines we use to follow it, where we call this thing standard distribution, and if it's like way too much, we decide to get rid of it. So let me just show you the full thing of how this will look quickly. 1 second, guys. Okay, while this is loading, let's go back to this first. So this is just a very quick sample of your data collection, your feature engineering and data cleaning. Generally, the reason why I said this is like 90%, or sometimes it takes us days and days or weeks just to prepare it, is because number one, data is not clean. Number two, to be able to tell if it's right or wrong, it's not easy unless you work together closely with both the product owner, software engineer, and stakeholders. So let me show an example of how the real one, the big one would look. So bear with me for the code. So for correlation, or like looking at patterns, this is actually a very small example of how we would read it. And generally, if it's, we can see all the numbers here, and there is a color on the right side. Basically, if it's anything more than 0.7 or lesser than 0.7, it means these two features that we're looking at are very related to each other, and you should not be using it at the same time. I'll run through the whole code again later, but let's go back to the sharing session. Okay, and this is the interesting part where it's a machine learning model. So number one, as I said, we're gonna have to do the model selection and feature selection. So based on what we mentioned just now, this is a classification model, which is part of your unsupervised, meaning everything is manual. And why is it a classification? It's because it's a yes or no answer. Are you going to pay back? Are you not going to pay back? There is going to be no, maybe I'll pay back, maybe I'll pay back 50%, maybe I'll pay back 30%. To be honest, there is, but that's going to be more advanced, and I'll cover a very simple one today. So for example, this model we're using is actually something called logistic regression, which is a yes or no answer, and it's a very explainable model, even though it's not the best to be used for certain, but we use it as a baseline feature. And I'm not going to go through the maths behind this because it's a bit more complex. And for example, the model training that we do next is what features do you want to use? For example, every time you grow older in age by 1 year, you're actually less likely to pay back along with your employment length. So let's say if you're 60 and you've been working for 50 years, you are actually not going to pay back your loan. That's how we measure it. And whether we know whether this is correct or not correct, we evaluate the model. So on the top right, slide number 3, you can see there is something called train and test. And we usually split the data that we get into two sections. Training means we train the model based on that data. And testing means you test the results based on the training results. It's a bit complicated, but how we usually split this is a 7-to-3 split or 8-to-2 split. And you can see there are multiple metrics up there called accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score. So I'm sure everybody knows what accuracy means. It's like how accurately are you going to predict if that person is going to pay back or not. If it was as easy as that, that would be great, but we can't always use accuracy because there is something we call true positive and true negative, where your true positive, is it actually true? Your false positive meaning is like, we say this person is going to pay back, but they actually don't pay back. So depending on your business problem, you have to pick the best metric to use to evaluate. So it is always possible. In this case, you can see all of it is quite similar, 0.8, 0.7 to 0.5. But the accuracy is great. You could use this if that's what you want. But if your business problem requires you to use recall, we're like, okay, hey, this model is not giving us a good result, we use something else. So back to the model feature selection, this is going to be an iterative process where you do this maybe, who knows, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, use different models. Logistic is going to be the most baseline model. They have something, if you guys know what, we have a decision tree model, a K nearest neighbor model, K means all types of models online. But this is the most baseline that all of us use. And yeah, let's move on to the next part. So for the metrics dashboarding, based on what I explained just now, whether we say yes or no, do you get your loan? So we visualize the data based on what we want to predict. And if you guys look on the top left, we have all your grades, your scores, and what we call PD is probability of default. What are the chances of you going to pay back your loan? So I'll show you how to calculate this score later, but for your metrics, this is what you track and you want to keep it up to date because people change every day. And for the real-time monitoring, we have some examples of this. I can't show you guys the real one because I don't have access right now to the previous companies. But this is a sample of how we track our data. How much have we funded today? How much loan did we get back? How many people defaulted? How much are we losing in total? What do we need to break even? And we can adjust the amount of loan based on that and your interest rate. So based on like number 1, your grading, you can look at how we calculate it, which is on the next slide. So for example, inside delivery, this is where we show the stakeholders and product owners, hey, these are the features we're going to use to predict, are you going to pay back your loan? Because like, these are the most critical features based on the machine learning model. This will need to be explained by the data scientists, but it's a bit complicated, so I'll skip that part for now. So for example, I'll show you for personal loans. Maybe I'll just get somebody here for any volunteers just to fill this form up. Let's pick Derek since Derek is here. So for example, Derek, how old are you? Like
18.
Okay, so Derek is 18. Will he, based on that score, you will get a score of 0 to maybe 20%. And how many years have you been working?
1.
Okay, 1. Employer type, are you working government, private, limited company?
Government.
Salary deduction, are you, do you work for the military?
Yes.
What's your net salary?
1.5.
Okay, your debt service ratio, which is, okay, we calculate this by ourselves, sorry. And then your CCRIS is basically like, how is your history of your loan repayments? Have you been repaying all your loans? And CTOS is basically, have you gotten in any legal issues? So for example, asking this to Derek, based on this, I can tell Derek is totally not going to pay back his loan just from reading this because I've worked on this. But the way we integrate this is through a software engineer where you guys will create something called a loan origination system All this will be automated through a form that you guys fill in, and the answers will come back automated, and you will receive your loan immediately. So for example, example number 1, that's a personal loan where Derek failed to get his loan. Number 2 is where we go to product implications and how we determine how we calculate the score. What makes you fail your score, what makes you pass your score. So using number 1 example for personal people, number 2 is the corporate. So it's going to be a bit more finance related. Your debt service ratio, your gearing, cash conversion cycle, gross profit margin. I'm not going to go too deep into that. But based on your scores for all this, you will basically pass or fail your loan and get that amount. And the way the company makes money off our decision is, what are the chances of you failing? If you are passing, for example here, if you fall into the grade of 55 and below, we do not accept your loan because you have like a 13% chance to default. So based on your score, we actually know what are the chances of you defaulting. And the final action, which is together with stakeholders, this is honestly the most problematic part of a data scientist journey, getting a yes from your stakeholders. So requirements will change every single meeting. It can take up to a year to get this project done. Personally, for me, this was a project I did with a company called Koperasi Tentera, which is the Army's corporation. It's a government project. These people are very nice. I learned a lot from them, but it took us 6 months just to get this up. Because number 1, you have to explain the tech terms to them. For example, I'm sure everybody here knows Excel, right? What is an empty row? You guys all know that, right? So they didn't know that. So because of that, we had to pause the project, explain the whole thing, clean the data, and say, this is actually empty from your side. So things like this will happen, and we always need a green light from all stakeholders, which if they are non-tech, it's very hard to communicate, which is why for software engineering, data science, any programming, it's very important to know how to translate your tech terms to English. And this is basically an end-to-end project for a data scientist. This was a data science project that we did for the Army of Malaysia to see if the people from the Army are eligible for a loan and if they will pay back the loan. Okay, and this is the interesting part of how I managed to land my jobs and how I found my jobs. So method 1 is applying through LinkedIn. Everybody knows that. So I have 2 of my companies here. First company is Boehringer Ingelheim, where I was an intern over there for 9 months. As most of you know, interns, they get paid like quite a good amount. I had to pay like 8,000 AUD just to get both my interns there, yeah. But I got a part-time job and I did get offered a full-time job, but because of COVID and I haven't been home for 2.5 years, I decided to come back home, where I found my next company called Pilot Multimedia, and that's where I started my journey into finance and technology, which I really enjoyed. I still enjoy it up to today. And I started as a data scientist for a year and 2 months. Basically, instead of managing projects and people, I was the one doing hands-on, creating the models, everything you see. And after a year and 2 months, I moved into a managerial role where instead of being very hands-on in coding, I had to improve my soft skills, my communication skills, and learn how to talk to clients, stakeholders, CEOs, bosses, create proposals and all. So that was my journey and how I got a job, which is through applying through LinkedIn. And number 2, it's through connections, which I will share a very interesting story of how I got it, and maybe you guys can apply it to companies that you really wanted to join. And just a reminder, for Money Lion, it was a company that I've always wanted to join right after I came back from Australia, but I couldn't get in. We'll go through the story later. Okay, so number 1, the method 1 of applying on how you guys can find a job. So it's very simple. I think everybody knows this. Most people will get their jobs through this. Go to LinkedIn, go to JobStreet, go to Google, search the job that you want, and you just press apply with your resume on the right side. So as you can see on my recommended page, I have a few jobs recommended to me as a data scientist. And on my right, I have my resume written up to share it to them. So this is a very traditional way, which I'm not going to go through too much because it's not very interesting. So number 2, connections, how I actually got the job of my dreams. So this is actually my big boss. His name is Michael Stringer. So on the very first day, you can see February 7, 2022, I asked Dr. Mike, I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm going to interview with you soon. I thought I want to say hi and see how it goes. So anybody wants to guess what happened? Did I get a job just from doing this? Yes? Yes? Yeah, great. I did not get a job. I failed my interview straight away. Yeah. So on the top left over there, all the way on the left, this was after I failed the interview. I told him, hey, I didn't pass the interview. I really enjoyed it. I managed to reach the final stage. What can I do to be better? And I hope I didn't make any mistakes for you in the interview. So this is all within the same day. So one reason why I really wanted to go back to MoneyLion is because when you see there's a good manager, you really want to work with them, you really want to learn from them. So most managers, who's going to take the time? This guy is a vice president, he's going to be very, very busy. But he took the time, compiled all these notes for me and told me, hey Ken, this is what you need to do. These are my notes on the interview. Your pre-interview, it was borderline. I barely passed my technical interview. And he just wanted to see how much energy I could bring, how much good attitude I could bring. My vibe was good, so it's very important to keep a good vibe, keep a good energy. Don't just because we failed the interview or we're not doing well, don't like give any bad faces. Just always be friendly. And yeah, this was his feedback for me. I learned a lot. So one advice I'll give you guys: go for many interviews, attend as many interviews as you can, and always remember ask for feedback. Why? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this was back in February 2022, right? So fast forward a year, I applied again in August 2023, a year maybe and 3 months. This was in the middle of my masters, and I reached out to Dr. Mike again. Hey, sorry for not reaching out for so long. We did talk in the middle, so maybe keep in contact for a bit. Hey, we did talk in the middle, so I'm applying for a job again. Congratulations on the promotion he got, because he got a promotion. And I just wanted to say I was grateful for his feedback, so I got improvements that I needed to get into MoneyLion. So you can see Dr. Mike replied me back. Do you have any time to come in to MoneyLion office? Which I did go on Wednesday. Anybody else wants to guess what happened after this? Close enough. So okay. So as you can see, the time here is like 8:33 in the morning, and I got an email at 11:25. Hey Ken, hope you're doing well. We'd like to schedule you for a final interview with our hiring manager. I totally did not know why. I just skipped straight to the final interview, because this usually does not happen. So I asked the guy, hey, did you send me a wrong message? Where he said, hey, no, our hiring manager actually remembered you from last year because you gave a good impression, and that's why we skipped you to the take-home assessment. So for this, what I want to tell you guys is like, if you guys really have a dream company you guys want to go to, it's fine to fail one time. Keep in touch. You never know how you can just skip to the final interview. And I can be honest, I barely passed my technical interview there. I was really borderline, but they took the chance with me because I really showed my energy. I wanted to work with the boss. So the soft skills that I want to translate here is like, it's not always about your technical skills. Your soft skills work a lot. Keep in touch with the people that have guided you. Be willing to share your experience with people. Give feedback, and eventually it will come back to you. So while I did skip to the final interview, and there was not supposed to be any assessment, it was just supposed to be, hey, just come for the interview, let's have a chat and coffee. They did give me an assessment 12 hours before, and they said it's not compulsory, but when they say not compulsory, it's basically compulsory to do. Yeah. So even with Sigmaschool, so this is actually how I reached out to Derek. So I'm sure Kai's, the way that, for example, our tech lead Kai's, how he started working with Derek was through, they met at a bootcamp, right? Yeah, they met at the bootcamp and they asked whether they want to work together. Some of you guys here applied through LinkedIn, some of you followed us through online. So I just found Derek on LinkedIn. I had no idea what this guy did at all. I did not know who he was or what he was doing here. And how did we start? It's just through one email, just wanting to get to know somebody, just saying hi. And after that, this is a picture of us in our first lunch. And well, I'm here today. I'm here as the AD manager. And yeah, things just happen when you just try to reach out connections, reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on email. It takes you further than you think. And sometimes you might realize, like, for me, I came out of tech because Derek gave me a vision of a company where we want to help improve people's life, which is not what everybody wants to do. And same as Dr. Mike earlier, Derek gave me a very good vibe of a good manager, which end of the day, you don't really want to work for a good company. You probably want to work for a good manager because they will bring you far, not the company. What you do for the company doesn't really matter in the end because they might not remember it, but what you did for the manager, your people, your interactions and all, that's what really matters in the long term, and that's what will actually get you far in the career. For example, I showed you guys I was a manager in my first job, Pilot Multimedia. I wasn't the best programmer there, but all I did was I had a good relationship with the boss, I led the team well, I kept a good vibe for everybody, and the most important is, as a manager as well, you want to be able to protect your team, grow your team, and also help the company grow. So my TLDR from this is, for everybody of you, you guys are going to start looking for jobs after this. You guys can even start right after this by doing what I did. take your first step out of your comfort zone. Just message somebody. You might have 0 years of experience coding. I had 0 years. I applied for a job, 7 years experience. Guess what? I got an interview. Don't need to say I did fail the interview straight away because they're looking for a senior, but they will say, hey, we're open to you being a junior. Would you like to work with us? So while you guys are seeing all your LinkedIn, your experiences, 5 years experience, your React, your data science, your Python, whatever skills, that's not important. Just apply for it, and you might not pass through the automated system, but what you can do is pass through your message to the managers itself. So that is a very different way of how I found my job, which I want to share with everybody here, because this is not a very common way to find a job, and not many people share this experience. Yeah, and I think that's it for my story of how I became from a data scientist from tech to an edu manager. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead and ask. Anybody online as well?
I actually have a question.
Yep.
You mentioned Money Lion was like your dream company, right?
Yeah.
So like when you got in, what was the reason that you decided to leave your dream company?
Okay, so Money Lion up to today is one of my favorite companies. I really enjoyed what I did there. I would go back. I would go back if I want to go back into tech, but for me at that point of time, it was some stuff happened and it was life changing. I didn't really see. Sure, it gave me a lot of money, but am I impacting anybody's life? Am I helping them get their dreams? For example, all of you here are to transition into tech to get a job in tech, right? So like if we teach you here, we see you guys achieve your goal. It feels good for me. But at that time, I was like working in tech for 2.5 years already. I wanted to try a more managerial and people role. So it's just exploring around, and so far I've really been enjoying my job. Yeah. Let's see, Adrian has a question. Oh, sorry Adrian, I didn't see your message just now. Do I clean the data? Yes, I clean the data from scratch based on knowledge. And what were the most difficult parts when changing from data to this? So honestly, right now as a manager, I do miss coding. I don't get as much hands-on work as I can anymore. It's more managing people and making sure your team is fine, your boss is, the company is growing, your boss is aligned with your tasks. So changing from a tech to a completely different role, it's more adapting to, can you apply your soft skills that you've learned along the way? For me personally, I've always been training my soft skills, like you guys saw my messaging. So the hardest part was picking up the new industry, because right now we are in education. How do we improve the education rather than how do I improve the loan? Yeah, sorry, Adrian, does that answer your question? Okay, nice. Does anybody else have any other questions? Nope. Okay, then I think we'll probably end here for today. Thank you everybody for attending. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send me a message. I'm sure all of you have my phone number, or if you guys want, I'll just paste my LinkedIn in the chat.
I have a question. Is it cooler to be a software engineer or a data scientist?
Oh, okay. So for everybody online, Darius' question was it cooler to be a software engineer or a data scientist? So since all of you guys here are training to be software engineers, I gotta be very careful with my question. With my answer. You gotta put me on the spot like that. I would say the coolest is to be a manager where you can collaborate with both and look at the final product. A very safe answer, and it's a very nice thing to do.
What about applying for a manager role?
If you want to apply for either a software engineer or a data scientist, do you like maths? Which one's cooler? So for what job is cooler, it's subjective to everybody's dream. You should just follow what your heart tells you to follow. But to me, sorry everybody, I would say data scientist is cooler. But software engineering is cool as well, guys.
Questions?
Yeah, which is harder, software engineer or data science? I would say once you study one, for example, I did data science from my degree until my master's. So I would say data science is a lot easier for me, and software engineering is hard because I don't know. For actuarial scientists, let me finish the question for Harif. For software engineering, I think it's harder because I haven't had enough practice, but if I practice, I feel that it will both be equal. So end of the day, it just comes back to how much effort and how much time you put into what you want to do. What's the difference between a data scientist and an actuarial scientist? So a data scientist, sometimes we run our numbers on business analytics and we create machine learning models. Actuarial scientists, what they do is more of, it's more hedge funds research on algorithms to generate something we call alpha, which is how much profit can you get from the algorithm or the trading pattern you want. At least that's my own experience from what I know as a data scientist and an actuarial scientist. So Harif, Adrian, I hope that answers your questions. Anybody else, any questions? What role do you think data science will play in shaping the future of automation and AI? Very good question. So as I mentioned earlier, we data scientists, we run a lot of machine learning models. What I showed you just now was just a part of data science. This is actually more to machine learning research. So data scientists right now, from what I know, ChatGPT 4 is still having a lot of issues where they are getting data from the internet and reusing it. Whether it's right or wrong, we have no idea. So a role of a data scientist is to develop a new model, for me at the moment at least, is to develop a new model to be able to validate the data if it's right or wrong. For computer science, is it any harder than data science? Planning to take data science, computer science degree soon. I would say it's whether it's harder or not, it depends on, I wouldn't say one is harder than the other. As long as you just practice more, you will be able to get both. So in my first 2 years of my data science degree, I actually did a lot of computer science. For example, your Java, your C, your, what else did I do? I can't remember, sorry, it's been too many years, but there is no hard or not hard for these two. What's the most surprising or unexpected insight you've gained from analyzing a data set? It's the one I mentioned just now. We were giving 1,000 USD away every few minutes, and this was during Chinese New Year, so the whole team had to cancel their leave and come back. Yeah. So that's the most surprising thing I've ever faced. 1,000 USD, which is like, I think, 4,000 ringgit every few minutes, just flying away like that. Any other questions, guys? Internal? Any of you guys, any questions?
When are you going to use your data analytics skills for Sigmaschool?
So Darius' question is, when am I going to use my data analytics or data science skills for Sigmaschool? Look forward to it. We are going to launch a data analytics course and data science course soon. I'm going to use my skills there to deliver as much of my knowledge as I can to you guys, so you guys can join companies like Money Lion and other big companies. Yes, how I wish I built the backdoor and all the money came to me, but I would have been caught for fraud very fast. So we have a fraud data science team as well, where we trigger all the fraud and these people get blacklisted in the US. Yeah. Okay. So for everybody online, we're actually going to be playing badminton later on at Puchong White Ferry. Feel free to join us there. If you we have the address sent in the group, and we're going to have dinner with our tech lead Kai as well. We'll share the location in a while in the group as well. If anybody is free, please do join us. And thank you very much everybody for joining today. Let's take a picture. Maybe everybody can on your camera and we'll take a picture together. One second, guys. How? Oh, this everybody here. No, everybody. Welcome, Harif. So let's all take a picture together. Maybe those like in-house here, maybe let's all move to the front. Who's going to press the button? Timer, right? Oh, it's recording. So how do you take a photo? Or why not we just like all come here and smile and we just change pose and then the rest of you guys, maybe some of you can on your cameras.
Guys, please on your cameras, thanks. If you share your screen, you cannot see, because I want to see the title, then you can know that we're presenting.
Oh, okay, wait.
No, that's gonna block everybody's.
Yeah, that's gonna block everybody.
You block, is it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay. Okay, come on. Come on, come on.
Okay, let's take a photo, guys.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much everybody for coming. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, my phone number or anything. Or reach out to support at Sigmaschool, I'll answer your questions there as well.